Today we'll be painting this super easy landscape with ink and watercolors. What you'll need is a pencil for a rough drawing first, a rubber, an ink pen, any of your choice, some water, and of course some watercolors. I did a rough sketch in pencil first of some grass in the foreground and then some trees that are overlapping each other. Then I'm just going over it with my ink pen. You can use any one that you want. You can use a ballpoint, a fine liner. This is my Sailor Fude fountain pen. I'm using it with platinum carbon ink, and I like using this pen because it gives variation of line work depending on what angle I use the nib. So you can see I'm just very loosely sketching out the pine trees. I want to keep it thinner at the top and thicker at the bottom, so kind of like a cone shape. And don't worry about being too perfect. It just adds its extra quirks and characters with the wonky lines. And then I'm adding some texture onto the trees just to make it look a little bit less 2D. And I'll be doing the same for the grass too. So just a simple foreground with some grass and trees, and then we'll be working on the sky and painting the trees. Now wait for the ink to dry a little bit and then rub out the marks in pencil. The colors we'll be using are cerulean blue or a sky blue. And then the next color and the last color is Viridian or Hooker's green. And this is the same color, but I'm using a heavier concentration. So the less water you put, the darker the pigment is. And now I'm showing you a wet into wet technique. I wet the paper first, and I'm going in with my cerulean blue and dragging it down. You can see it's thicker at the top and then more dilute at the bottom. Then with some tissue and blotting it out, it creates a nice texture for the clouds. I'm going to be doing the same thing for the sky. So I'm wetting the paper first, and then I'm going to add a wash of blue for the sky. The trick is to try not to overthink it and work quite quickly and loosely. So you can see I'm leaving some areas white and they form the clouds. Try not to overwork the watercolor and just go with the flow. Clouds usually are more thicker at the top, and then as you go towards the bottom, they thin out. And I also want to keep the concentration slightly darker at the top, and then I want to fade the color out towards the bottom. So I'm just going in with a little bit more pigment. And then I'm softening out the clouds to make it blend in a little bit nicer. And then blotting the tissue. You have to work whilst it's still wet, and just keep at it until you like what the sky is looking like. Just punching in a few more clouds, make it look nice and fluffy. And then I'm going in with my first layer of green for the grass. The main thing about watercolors is that you want to work in layers. You start with the lightest first, and then you gradually go darker. So I'm putting in my first layer, and then I'm just going to go make it a little bit of stronger green with less water, and then adding some more in. And now for the trees, I'm trying to leave little bits of it white. I don't want to paint the whole thing, so I'm stippling in the green, and the whites create a nice highlight. Shadows and highlights are so important when painting or drawing anything. No matter what drawing style you have, as long as you get the shadows and highlights correct, it always makes it look a little bit more realistic. So remember to keep some white spaces. Some of the trees are overlapping, and I will show you how to make them stand out a little bit more later. The final tree now. And now when the first layer is dried, I'm going in with the darker concentration of green using less water, and I'm adding in a darker layer. And I'm trying not to cover the first layer fully. So you want the first layer to shine through as well. And then I'm going to keep all the shadows towards the right hand side of the trees. So I'm darkening up the right hand side. I'm dragging it a little bit towards the middle as well. And this will make the overlapping trees stand out a little bit because there'll be a lighter strip of green in between. So you can see between the two trees, there's a lighter strip here. And I'm just darkening that corner. And you can already see that makes a huge difference. I've darkened this tree up a little bit too much, so I'm lifting the paint off. You want to clean your brush and then just lift the paint off. It's okay, mistakes are inevitable. Just try not to panic and keep on going. And then towards the base of the trees, I'm darkening that up too. And then I'm keep on going at it till I feel like I'm happy with the final outcome. And then just for some extra interest, I'm adding two little birds in the distance to tie the whole picture together. And then I did a loose frame in pencil, which I'm rubbing out. If you want a more rigid frame, you are welcome to use washi tape and then peel off the edges. That will give you nice crisp edges. So that's all nice and simple. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will be making more tutorials, so do subscribe if you want to see more.